Hi, Terri Gillespie here, and welcome to my January 2026 top picks. Now, we're trying out a new format, so you'll have to let me know what you think of it, and comments are appreciated. All right, so first we're going to start with my lead book, and that is Edge of Truth. And of course, my lead book means that I will be interviewing Janice, and that interview will actually come out February 4th. So stay tuned for that. So, if you're not familiar with Janice, you're going to love her. But if you're not familiar with her, here's a little bit about her. Janice Cantore is a retired Long Beach police officer who now writes suspense novels to keep readers engrossed and leave them inspired, which is very true. Janice has penned over a dozen novels, including the Line of Duty series, the Cold Case Justice series, the Pacific Coast Justice series, the Brenna Caruso novels, and several standalones, including Edge of Truth. Now, here's a little bit about the book. Ben and Lainey both have a lot at stake. Ben is on the verge of shutting down a major money laundering operation. For Lainey, this situation is deeply personal. She is determined to expose those who think they're above the law. The criminals make it even more personal when Lainey's sister goes missing and is presumed dead. Think shark attack. Overwhelmed by grief and desperate for answers, Lainey turns to Ben for help, driven by the need to solve the mystery and seek justice for her family. The pain and uncertainty push Lainey to her limits, revealing just how far she will go for those she loves, even at her own peril. All right, so let's read the first paragraph. Okay, this is the prologue. Officer Lainey Jensen yawned as she patrolled her downtown Long Beach beat. The early morning darkness had a hypnotic effect when the police radio was silent. Her partner had called in sick, so she would be alone for the entire shift. It was the first time in her brief career that had happened. So I gave this 5 stars, and that is because Cantore is phenomenal at edge-of-the-seat suspense and tender romance. But what truly stood out to me was how Edge of Truth powerfully illustrates the transformative impact of forgiveness, especially when it seems impossible. On Living Stone by Heather Kaufman. On Living Stone is Salome's story and is part of the Women on the Way series. Now, I've really begun to love Heather's writing and her authenticity and culturally valid biblical fiction. But if you're not familiar with Heather, here's a little bit about her. Heather Kaufman is the author of multiple books and devotions, praised by Kirkus Reviews for writing a charming and well-crafted tale. She delights in highlighting the goodness of God through storytelling. When not reading, writing, or accumulating mounds of books, Heather can be found exploring new parks with her husband and 3 children near their home in St. Louis, Missouri. And of course, if you've been following along at all, you know that that's where I grew up. I grew up in St. Louis County. So it's kind of nice to have an author from that area. All right, so let's read a little bit about what the story is about. And of course, this is Salome, and Salome's actually mentioned in the Bible. So it's interesting how she's developing this. Growing up by the Sea of Galilee, Salome is restless to find her place and purpose. Years later, when her sons, James and John, are drawn deeper into Jesus' ministry, Salome must count the cost of discipleship and then confront her fears, even as she discovers her own worth in this most unexpected rabbi. Here's the prologue, and this is 44 AD, Capernaum, Israel. Their footsteps are slow, sluggish, like the steps of my children after blundering a task, coming to me with half-frightened eyes. I lift my hands from the dough, pluck sticky pieces from between my fingers, and turn to face them. Okay, I gave on Living Stone, Salome's story, 5 stars because Heather Kaufman brings to life the emotional journey of Salome, a lesser-known biblical figure and the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee. The story follows Salome from a childhood marked by bullies that soured her sweet relationships with her father and pet, to her journey of finding love and struggling to discover her identity as Adonai, and Adonai is Hebrew for the Lord, as Adonai's daughter. Through vivid storytelling, the novel reveals how God works through those who feel overlooked, showing that even when the cost is great, one woman's courage can ripple through history and inspire the body of Messiah worldwide. Next book, USA Today best-selling author Susan May Warren has started a new series called The Call of the Wild. And the first book is Track of Courage. Now, if you're not familiar with Susan May Warren, Susan is the USA Today best-selling author of nearly 100 novels, with more than 1.5 million books sold, including the Global Search and Rescue, Montana Rescue series, and she is the winner of a Rita Award and multiple Christie and Carol Awards, as well as the Holt Medallion and numerous Reader's Choice Awards. Susan makes her home in Minnesota. I hope you're staying warm. So here's a little bit about the first book in her new series. Pop singer Keely Williams' trip to Alaska turns into a nightmare when her plane is hijacked, forcing her through the woods with a killer in pursuit. Ex-cop Dawson Mulligan and his adopted rescue dog come to the rescue, but he has no idea he's being pulled into a race for his own life. Together, Keely and Dawson must stay one step ahead of the killer who's on their tail. She always does these exciting stories, and they're always set in cold places, which is why, even if it's July, I'm still putting a blankie around me. She's just so good at cold. Okay, here is chapter 1. At this rate, he'd never walk again. Dawson Mulligan lay back on the padded bench of the leg lift machine, sweat dripping into his ears, his body soaked, his leg burning, his breaths a little vocal as they emerged from his chest. He even sounded like a guy who'd hit the mattresses. So I gave this a 5-star. Once again, Susan May Warren introduces characters you will love, including the canine variety, and worry over with nail-biting tension and chills of the blizzard type. The story's icy winds and high-stakes romance will keep you turning pages well into the night. So we have Hearts on the Fly by Toni Shiloh. Now, Toni is great. She is such a romantic. I love her stories. Now, if you're not familiar with Toni, here's a little bit about her. Toni Shiloh is a wife, mom, and an award-winning Christian contemporary romance author. A native of Texas, she now lives in Northern Virginia. and she loves writing Southern stories. So there's usually a few y'alls in the story. So here we go. Here's a little bit about the book. Jabari Hall has spent his entire life chasing victory on the ice, but one devastating hit leaves him benched, not just from hockey, but from the future he thought he had. Now, as he struggles with deteriorating eyesight, his well meaning teammates set him up on a date, hoping it will cheer him up. Only the date they choose is none other than Val Elliott, his ex's sister. Val never expected to be sitting across from Jabari, especially after the way he broke her sister's heart. But when Jabari opens up about his diagnosis, Val's guarded heart softens, and she offers him a listening ear out of compassion. What begins as a simple friendship quickly turns into something more. Okay, so let's read the first paragraph. And this is in Jabari's point of view. 2 minutes left in the game, and we're down by 1. I race toward the goal, keeping my eyes out for my left and right wingers. Our rivals, the Pittsburgh Emperors, are leading our division halfway through this season. We're right on their heels, hoping this game can put us on top. Now, I gave this book a 5-star because I love how Shiloh digs into the real of faith, both for Jabari and for Val. Seeking to do the right thing may look counterintuitive to relationships. So kudos to this author who gives us a story that was entertaining and swoony and makes us think. Okay, the last book in top picks is Whiteout. Whiteout. One book contains 2 novellas, one written by Lynette Eason and the other by Dani Petrie. Now, if you're not familiar with these two ladies are romantic suspense mavens, and they are really two of my go-to authors for romantic suspense. So here's a little bit about Lynette. Lynette is a USA Today best-selling author of Double Take, Target Acquired, and Serial Burn, as well as the Extreme Measures, Danger Never Sleeps, Blue Justice, Women of Justice, Daily Reunions, Hidden Identity, and Elite Guardian series. She is the winner of 3 ACFW Carol Awards, a SALOME'S Award, and the Inspirational Reader's Choice Award, among others. She is a graduate of the University of South Carolina and has a master's degree in education from Converse College. Easton lives in South Carolina with her husband. They have 2 adult children. And what it doesn't say is, in addition to being a best-selling and award-winning author, she is also a literary agent. So I don't know how she does it. Let's do Lynette's, a little bit about her novella. In Snowbound Secrets by Lynette Eason, Dr. Maya Sullivan fully intends to escape her past and finish planning a retreat for military veterans at the ranch she's just inherited. Unfortunately, her plans go sideways when an avalanche traps her in her Colorado ski resort. An unexpected reunion with her high school crush forces her to confront past wounds, but she soon realizes someone is targeting her, and their search for a shadowy enemy might become a matter of life and death. Okay, so chapter 1, the first paragraph. Despite the darkness that had fallen, the sky was on fire. Green ribbons shimmered above the jagged peaks, twisting and unfurling like celestial streamers in a dance. The auroras had been predicted to appear when the geomagnetic storm hit. And there they were. Not 5 minutes later, a sharp crack sounded. The sound grew, building and becoming louder with each passing second until the mountain shook beneath the weight of it. Avalanche. Then we have Dani Petrie. Dani is the best-selling author of Jeopardy Falls series, Coastal Guardians series, Chesapeake Valor series, and the Alaskan Courage series. A three-time Christie Award finalist, Dani has won the National Reader's Choice Award, Daphne du Maurier Award, Holt Medallion, and Christian Retailing's Best Award for Suspense. She plots murder and mayhem from her home with her husband in Florida. Okay, now this is a little bit about Dani's novella, In Buried Shadows. Cassandra Parker arrives at her best friend's destination wedding, praying her stalker hasn't tracked her to Colorado. Also part of the wedding party is Sheriff Joel Brunswick, the man she's stunned by leaving at the altar to hide a dangerous truth. When an avalanche strands their ski group in an abandoned lodge, it becomes chillingly clear that Cassandra's stalker has followed her, and he's willing to kill to make her his. Okay, it has kind of a Shining vibe. Okay, so here's the prologue. Her breath bursting in her lungs, Cassie Parker ready to take a step, her bare foot hovering over the wooden floorboard. Please don't creak. She placed her foot on the floor, praying for silence. Creak. She closed her eyes, cold wafting over her trembling limbs. She held still, so still. Her lungs burned. She released her held breath and took another shallow intake. Creak. Let's see. So I gave both of these novellas a 4.5, so I just rounded it off to 5. In Snowbound Secrets, I gave that rating because Eason's story had a strong faith journey that wasn't an intermittent flurry, but a full yet organic, faith-filled suspense and romance. I gave Buried in the Shadows that 4.5 because I love the nods to The Shining. Petrie gives a nonstop, pulse-raising thriller that kept me glued to my chair until the satisfying end. Okay, that's it for this month. I've already started reading the books for next month. Great. I hope you find some books that you were interested in. You know what? In the description section, if you haven't already, please let me know about this new format. And also, what genre is your favorite in reading? Appreciate it. We'll see you next month. In the meantime, God bless and keep reading.